Bitcoin is the world's first cryptocurrency, and it works because of the world's first public blockchain network. So what does Bitcoin do? It's simple. It lets you send and receive value to and from anyone in the world using nothing more than a computer and an internet connection. Now, why is this revolutionary? Because unlike every other tool for sending money or value over the internet, it works without the need to trust a middleman. The lack of any corporation or entity in between means that Bitcoin is the world's first public digital payment infrastructure. And by public, I simply mean available to all and not owned by a single entity. Now, we have public infrastructure for information, for websites, for email. It's called the internet. We use it every day. But the only public payments infrastructure that we have is cash, as in paper money. And it only works in a face-to-face interaction to transfer this value. Before Bitcoin, if you wanted to pay someone remotely over the phone or through the internet, then you could not use this specific public infrastructure. You would rely on a private bank to open their books, add a ledger entry that debits your account and credit the person you're paying. And if you both do not use the same bank, well, there will be multiple banks and multiple ledger entries involved in between to make this happen. With Bitcoin, the ledger is the public blockchain, and anyone can add an entry to the ledger, transferring the Bitcoins or transferring value to someone else. And anyone, regardless of their nationality, race, religion, gender, sex, creditworthiness, can, for absolutely no cost, create a Bitcoin address in order to receive payment digitally. Bitcoin is the world's first globally accessible public money. So is it perfect? I would say no. Neither was email when it was first invented in 1972. Bitcoin is not the best money on every margin. It's not yet acceptable everywhere. It's not used often to quote prices. It is not always a stable store of value, but it is working. And the mere fact that it works without a trusted intermediary is amazing. It's a computer science breakthrough, and it will be as significant for freedom, prosperity, human flourishing as the birth of the internet was. Bitcoin is just the beginning. If we can replace private payments infrastructures, then we can replace other private choke points to human interactions as well. Now, why should we want to build more public infrastructure? Why should we embrace blockchain over corporate intermediaries? Why should we tolerate their inefficiencies and work to make them better? Well, there's a simple reason for that. And why should we do that? Because of the corporate intermediaries providing today's critical but privately owned infrastructure are becoming fewer, larger, and more powerful, and their failures are increasing and more impactful to all of us. So here are some of these. Roughly half of all Americans, about 143 million people, had their social security number exposed to hackers because of a breach at Equifax, which are one of these companies that hold this information. The SWIFT network, which is used to make bank transfers, transactions worldwide, has relayed hundreds of millions of dollars in fraudulent transactions because of hacked member banks in Bangladesh, Vietnam, Ecuador, and Russia. The FBI suspects now that the largest of these hacks was presented and perpetrated by North Korea. Corrupt low-level employees at an Indian bank, Punjab National, were able to fraudulently certify SWIFT messages, stealing 1.8 billion US dollars, making it the largest electronic bank robbery in history. In October 2016, an estimated about 1.2 million internet-connected devices were hacked and turned into botnet that for several hours made prominent websites unavailable. Across Europe, North America, including CNN, Fox News, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal, they all went down. Increasingly, physical machines are being connected to the internet to augment their capabilities and provide better services. They're wired through servers that are owned and maintained by private and trusted intermediaries, the so-called Internet of Things. For example, pacemakers from St. Jude's hospitals have been hacked. Baby monitors from TreadNet have also been hacked. Jeeps from the Jeep Corporation have been hacked to the point where they can be remotely controlled and driven off the road. So now these vulnerabilities are inescapable. You cannot get away from them, especially in systems that have single point of failures. It does not matter if this point of failure is in a corporation or if it's in a government. There just should not be a single point of failure. Similar choke points exist before the internet. This is nothing new. In the past, if you wanted to deliver messages, you would have to go through 2 to 3 different television broadcasters and or a handful of newspapers. Private corporations are essential, but no critical infrastructure should rely on 1 or 2 of these. The internet removed single point of failures in the communications infrastructures and brought in a wave of competition among new media corporations building on top of this public rails. Blockchains can similarly disintermediate critical payment systems and Internet of Things infrastructures. The technology is not yet ready to answer all of these questions that we might have today, but it's our best hope going forward. And as with the internet in the 1990s, we need to pay attention to this new scientific innovation and not discard it as simply a myth or a fad. Thank you.